Great, thank you very much. Actually, I can say that already from the breakout room discussion, I can see how this presentation and how this meetup will become very interesting. What we are about to talk today is, I have to make a disclaimer, a project manager perspective to start with, of the challenges that there are in making the two environment, or what can be perceived as two different ways of working in different environments, coexist. And I'm talking about project management and agile delivery. A bit on myself. Daniele Cassani, I'm Italian. I've been living in Sweden for 20 years now. I've been working, I would say, most of my career in project management environment somehow. I realized while I'm reading it that I've been PMP for 10 years now, which is quite some time. I've been working also as a PMO manager for a while, during a couple of years in 2011, 2012. I'm mostly focused on software delivery projects, which is, or software development projects, which is very relevant to the topic today, but also system integration projects. I've also worked as a commercial project manager, so I've seen a lot of different aspects. The latest buzzword I've been working a lot lately is digital transformation, which is basically another sort of project. So it's just a way of packaging what we deliver. What we will talk about today is I will present a case study. So what I want to make sure is that what I'm presenting here is not an absolute truth or something that I believe being like the Bible of project management. It's mostly some findings that I've had when working in an organization that try to make these two ways of working coexist. I will describe a bit what the ecosystem and what the environment was in that organization. And I will define then from a project management perspective, what is the main impact on the different knowledge areas that we need to take care when we run a project. And based on that, I will also define a bit the impact on project management office and the PMO challenges compared to the traditional ways of working with a bit of effects. Then I will give the word to Sari in order to understand, once we have seen the challenges from a project management point of view, can we find a way to understand each other, to understand where we come from, and find maybe some sweet spots where we can make things work together. And the second part of the meetup will be actually more of an interactive work where you will go back to breakout rooms and maybe reflect a bit on what I presented, share your experience, and why not find some solutions in order to be able to mitigate the problems. I think we can start then. The case study. I was working in this big manufacturing company. I will not disclose anything. Maybe some of the points will be recognizable if you have worked in something similar. And software was not the core business. It's basically a big product development company, which lately in the past year started realizing that software is an important component. Unfortunately, due to the background of the company having always been a physical product development company, the organization is also a bit old style, a lot of compartments, everybody focusing on their area, building the product. And that made so that also the software development organization was divided in big silos. On the other hand, they could say that they implemented SAFe. So they had a lot of roles and ways of working with trains and product owners and so on and so forth. But yet every project or every new product was developed by means of a project with the main project manager owning the total budget for the total product, with a committed scope and committed budget. So, and the delivery time, of course, you know how it works. The connection towards the safe part of the organization, of the safe way of working, is that in each train or each organization had their representative in the project, working as a sub-project manager, and somehow working as a single point of contact for that organization. My role here was not to be a project manager, but it was to be, what is called sponsor. I was the one, representing the commercial organization ordering the software product. And due to the meshed up organization, I would say I was also, I ended up being the project manager escalation point. That's why I could gather so many findings about the different situations. The ways of working that I met when I started working in that organization was that, as I mentioned, there were projects running with requested scope that, of course, was broken down by the different product owners. So we had some form of epics list for the project, a budget, and a timeline. And each organization was represented in the project with the sub-project manager, as I mentioned, but also they had release trains. So they have a lot of engineer team, software development teams and engineers and so on and so forth. And the way the project was run was that the sub-project manager, based in the work within the project, they fed the backlogs of the different trains, of the different delivery trains. So if there was a feature to be developed, then during the PI planning, there was a proposal from the sub-project manager to introduce a certain number of features, or whatever they're called nowadays, into the PI, into that PI. But then, well, it was mostly a request, a wish list, saying we would like to have these in the backlog. But then, of course, the prioritization was done by product owners within the train. So I would say that in that moment, it's where the project lost control of their request. They put in something in the PI planning, and they get the result of the planning. Sometimes I've seen times where the project had no idea whether a request made it to the PI or not, and then, of course, the portfolio management, meaning the product management and what is that, how our feature is developed and delivered and so on and so forth, was done at each organization. In this environment, the PMO, so the project management office, rather than being an organization that controls and governs the way projects are run, was merely a resource pool. A new project comes, we need a new project manager, please provide us one resource. I don't know if any of you recognize these problems in your organization, but maybe make a note and we will take it in the questions or in the breakout rooms. So from a project management perspective, and I am talking to the project managers in the area here, in the audience here, they will recognize what I'm talking about. If you are coming more from a Scrum Master role, I guess that these will help you understanding what are the expectations that project manager here has and why probably you have had so many challenges in communicating with them. Main impact, I would say, is, of course, it's on the project time and schedule management. Basically, what happens is that the project manager loses the control over the schedule. I know I have a number of features to deliver. I put requests in the planning, but whether these requests and this delivery will be done in the current PI is actually outside my responsibilities, outside my control. Yet the project manager is accountable for that, because at the so to say, the regular follow-up meetings with steering committees and so on and so forth, they are asking what happens to the time plan. And the main problem as a project manager is to lose predictability on the project. For us, is I would say that the most important thing is not delivering in time, is knowing when the delivery will come. And if we get information about delays in the schedule very late, then it's a big problem, because we are facing people who are expectations on the project, who have expectation of the project and get very late notification. So basically, at the end of each PI, the project manager got notified whether something went through or not. This affects as well cost management. As a project manager, we need to have always control of the cost of the project. We need to report the progress of the cost, and we need to be able to say whether we are spending too much, spending too little compared to what we deliver. The interesting thing that I observed in this organization is that the cost booking on the project was done basically based on what was delivered in each PI. So as a project manager, I will have maybe one PI, let's say 10 weeks or 8 weeks, whatever PI long we have, maybe with very low cost booking, because nobody has been working on my project, and maybe the following 10 weeks overspending compared to my plan. And this is maybe at the end everything will even up, but due to the periodic follow-up need, this is a nightmare for a project manager. And this, of course, reflects on the mood of the organization. If we put this together, schedule and cost, you will have stakeholders who feel that they don't know whether the deliveries are coming, if we are overspending or not. And in a very traditional organization, this, I can tell you, create a lot of panic. Maybe unnecessarily, but unfortunately it does. One thing that is important for a project is also to have control of the quality. Of course, we want to deliver in time, we want to deliver according to the budget, and we want to deliver good stuff. And it's very difficult from a project manager to perform quality management, because when trains deliver into the main project, then there is an integration and verification function there. And if you find bugs, you might lose control over the bugs, because you have to feed them back into the train. It's not that you have, or at least in that organization, I have to say that I'm not a super expert on how safe it's supposed to work. So maybe there are some implementations that are done halfway. But anyway, what I saw is that there was a huge amount of trouble reports or fault reported, which were just put back into the backlog, and then eventually a lot of task force were created to lower the amount of trouble reports. So all in all, quality management was also one of the worst knowledge areas to be handled by the project managers. Resources. Yeah, this is, I would say, this was my first question when I came into the organization, and I never got the answer. Basically, one of the key, well, the main asset of a project are the resources working in the projects. Projects are delivered by people. So as a project manager, if I have no idea how many people are working on my project and what I can expect from them, what sort of performance I can expect from them, it's a bit scary, because as a project manager, one thing that you have is the possibility to control your resources and secure that you have the right competence in the right place at the right time. You can measure that competence by deliveries, and if you notice that you're lagging behind or you're having an issue, you can take actions. Here, you just get an organization delivering to you, and you don't know if this is done with the right people, with the right amount of people, what are the issues, and so on and so forth. I believe you're noticing that I come from the project management world. I'm seeing all these things. I'm talking about all the things that I expect as a project manager. While preparing this material with Sari, we realized that there are things that also Scrum Masters and product owners are expecting from a project. And sometimes the issue is that we don't know that. we don't know what each other is expecting. And communication management, as usual, is one of the main issues in every project. Let be in one where we are trying to make two different words work together. I've seen that the main issue was the double reporting. The spokes were reporting both to the main project manager for the project, trying to make their delivery plan, committed delivery plan work together, but also trying to work from their organization perspective when they have multiple projects to deliver to and they cannot delay every project or prioritization to be done and so on and so forth. And of course, the main risk, and I've seen it happen a couple of times, is that the trains don't talk to each other in the big picture. Because, of course, inside the project, maybe you know that the two sub-project manager knew that they need to deliver a feature, which means a certain amount of time in the two work in the two trains, and they try to synchronize that. But I've seen also cases where features were down prioritized in one train and over prioritized in the other one, with the result that something was delivered in one PI at the train and in the following PI in the other train, delaying the total delivery by one PI or worse. So the communication is a huge obstacle. I would say that it's super important to understand where each other come from, so that you understand the need of information that need to be shared. As a project manager, again, sorry if I keep taking that. Sari will take the Scrum Master part later on, so you will have your revenge. Risk management is very important. I need to understand, as I mentioned before, there are a lot of things that project manager need to understand. And what the risk level is in the project is vital. I need to understand if the project is going well or it's going bad. Maybe I see that, wow, everything is going fine, but I have a huge risk on my shoulder, just bomb waiting to explode. And in order to do proper risk management, a project manager needs to have control over what is happening, but also have control over mitigation action. We need to be able to secure that if something happens, then we have a plan, a contingency plan to cover for that we have budget for that. And in this organization, it was very difficult because there are a lot of owners, I would say, a lot of people working in different organizations. So when the project manager tried to call for a risk assessment and tried to do risk management by identifying the risk, of course, everybody could see the main risks of the big project, but it was very difficult to assign mitigation actions because they were spread in too many organizations and there was no one having the full control. Last but not least, you see where I'm going here. There is a lot of people involved. It was one of the discussion in the breakout room, actually. There are a lot of people involved. Everybody is expecting something from the project, is expecting something from their organization, from the product owners, from the Scrum Master, from the project managers. And there is no clear hierarchy. I come from the project management world, and projects are not a democracy. Somebody has to have the mandate and the responsibility and accountability to decide. Here, it felt that it was way too spread. It was product owners wanted to have their share, Scrum Masters wanted to have their share, project manager, of course, they wanted their share. And it's very difficult to secure that everybody gets what they need and what they want. Usually, there could be a role in the PMO to handle the project portfolio and to secure that you synchronize all the need between the different projects and different organizations. But in these safe ways of working, there was actually no real project management office. It was mostly, as I mentioned before, a resource pool where a group of project managers that were called in and whenever a new project was set up. I would say that this was my experience. And again, it's not absolute truth. It's not something that it's necessarily valid for every organization. But when I look back at that experience and I look at how the organizations were set up, how the ways of working were set up, I believe that the problem that I mentioned here and the that I have actually live daily when working together with the projects, they are unavoidable. And I'm sure that there are answers, and Sari will go through some of them. But what I will believe it will be very important for the rest of the meetup is that later on, if you think about how I've seen these different issues in the different areas, how you would solve them, or how have you solved them in your organization, or if you believe you don't have them, why, what did you do in order to avoid that? So if we look at from a PMO perspective, which was one of the requests that we got for this presentation as well, to see the overall view from a governance perspective, if you want. The problem that I mentioned before is definitely the lack of empowerment to the PMO, and I'm not sure if everybody is familiar with the PMO concept. I said it a couple of times. It's Project Management Office, and according to the definition in the PMI ways of working, the role of the PMO, it's not only to provide project managers, but also to define project management method and tools, to handle the project portfolio, to support project managers, to secure competence development, and so on and so forth. And the environment where these projects were run and the coexistence with the safe ways of working made so that really these four bullets, these four main functions of the PMO were not relevant in that organization, because project management method and tools was felt as a bit obsoleted by the fact that there was a new delivery flow, a new delivery structure. So really the project manager was there to collect the deliveries and secure that they were integrated and delivered according to the budget. So I would say that one thing that should be put in place is the possibility for the PMO to still help the project managers, because if the project managers get the information they want, then they can report to stakeholders, that making sure that everybody is aware of what that work is going on, and that the deliveries and the delivery organizations can continue doing their job. As it was, the main consequences and of course the main impact that overall situation, and please look at this because you might recognize some of them from your organization independently if you work on project manager or save side. The quality in project deliverables was always perceived as poor because there was clearly a lack of joint verification or even communication about test coverage and test results. It was always a struggle to get the information and to secure that the overall test coverage was high enough. Not only the poor quality was the issue, but the fact that the poor quality was found very late. Only when the deliveries from the different trains were put together, we started finding that there were features or functions that end-to-end were not really working as they expected. And this is normally in a software development, you know that better than I do. But of course, from a project management perspective, it's extremely important to get the information as soon as possible, not like 1 week before the final delivery. Another interesting effect, and I'm not sure how I can connect it to the overall situation, but that was definitely an effect, is that due to the fact that delivery times and cost kept changing and kept getting out of control, the only way to keep the delivery time and cost was descoping, removing items from the PI. And eventually from the project. So because the project realized that nobody was going to deliver the requested features. And this, of course, created a lot of frictions between stakeholders. Conflicting priorities in the trains, I mentioned it before. I've seen cases where two functions were prioritized into different trains, causing a delay in both functions. And that created a lot of fuzz, of course, a lot of noise that could have been avoided with much easier communication. And last but not least, risk vulnerability. If something bad happens, it's very difficult to find somebody responsible to take care of that. Actually, the project manager is responsible, of course, but to find somebody that actually carries out the needed actions, that was the main issue. I would say that this was my presentation. This was just to recap. I've been talking about an organization going towards physical product development to more software development, trying to introduce safety, but not abandoning project management, and trying to make these two things coexist. We have seen the challenges, we have seen which are the areas with the main challenges, and the consequences that we had at the end with poor quality, delays in deliveries, and problems with risk management, and so on and so forth. We had booked some time for questions or thoughts. What do you say, Sari? Do we get them in the chat, or do we let people talk? What do you believe being the best?
Yes, well, thank you very much, Daniel, to start with, for sharing your experience and for being transparent as well about the challenges that you have been facing working as a project manager at different organizations over the years. I would say we can take the questions live. That would be more interactive. So please feel free to open the audio and ask any question you have, or share with us any ideas or thoughts.
Let me start with a question. Is this something that you recognized?
Yes. Yeah, a little bit of therapy sometimes was needed. So I'm glad I didn't suffer alone.
Sounds like you're taking the worst from both worlds, like the actual lack of control in an old waterfall organization, and the lack of responsibility in a kind of agile environment. So.
How do we get the best of both worlds?
Compromise.
Compromise.
Do you need both worlds at all, Danielle? Could you have a product owner that takes full responsibility of the product? Because it sounds like the teams are not capable of delivering on their own. Because it also sounds like your role is competing with a pure product owner. Can you deliver the project within one product, or does it have to be distributed on multiple products?
In that organization, it was divided. It was decided to take different products because the same product was serving different projects. So it was a very complex setup. And as I said, I'm not a big expert in SAFe, so I don't know how it should be done. This will take. Sari will talk about this in the coming chapter on how this should be handled.
Right, I would be looking for some sweet spots or compromise, as Kathy described it. Thank you for your remark, Adam. I have Mustafa. Mustafa raised his hand. Please go ahead.
Hello. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts about the presentation, of course. Maybe instead of some questions, I would like to share a few of my thoughts. Also, you know, I can say that my Agile coach is also in this meeting, and I hope he can maybe add something after I say something about the presentation. But I simply realized that before than that, I would like to say that at the vote, at the poll, I voted for the communication. So my actually thoughts will go on this level. I started to Volvo Cars 2 years ago, and when the transition started from the old way of working to agile way of working, and this is the biggest challenge: the communication between the project management and the agile teams suddenly stopped, and they realize this and they try to find a way to avoid this lack of communication. Because from your words, I also understand that you told us that you're not very, how to say, you don't have this deep knowledge about how SAFe works. And which shows us that, okay, in a company, if you want to make this transition, you have to keep communication from the beginning in a very good level. Otherwise, old way of project management style is totally different than the agile way of project management. So when you keep both of them together, it will definitely clash. And this is what I experienced at Volvo Cars, I think. I don't know if anyone agree or disagree with that, but this was my experience. You know, the difference between the approach to the project, the whole project, is totally different. And if you don't understand each other, then this will definitely create a problem. So simply, I wanted to say something about this. You know, the communication, lack of communication created so much trouble back then in my organization, at least.
I also work at Volvo Cars, and I absolutely agree. And I saw a very good TED talk about it. I tried to browse it, but I didn't find it. It is about, if you add something, you really need to remove something in order to get all the benefits of the new. And that is so true, I think.
It's funny because in my organization, I'm sorry, I didn't raise my hand.
That's fine. Please go ahead, Rosario.
In my organization, we did have to have these two models depending on the project, because I worked at a hospital. So for example, for projects involving some kind of infrastructure redesign or something like that, the waterfall approach was the best approach. Definitely, it was something that Agile wouldn't help with. But in other kind of projects like improvement projects or problem-solving projects, Agile was the best approach because it was a lot more flexible. What it was hard at first was have management understand the different expectations on both approaches. And mainly because they were all doctors and they were all used to work with a waterfall approach.
Yeah.
But when they started started gaining certain advantages with Agile, especially like with the frequent delivery and the reassessments to see if that solution was actually working with the project, it was better. It took a while, but at the end of it, it was like a really clear difference. And with this kind of projects, it's better to have this approach, and with these other kind of projects, this approach would be better.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Helene, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I agree with the previous commentators here, because and especially reflecting on something that Adam said and that I've seen, is that I've seen Agile being implemented in organizations because project management hasn't been implemented correctly. So you've got the worst of both worlds, and you try to merge them into one to things better, and it just makes it even worse. And one of my experiences at the moment is I work now in portfolio management, so I come from PMO and project management background,
Mm-hmm.
and working with the portfolios, I can only say that just separate it. You need to separate the agile ways of delivery and the organization that you need to create to manage that from the more flexible way of delivering via project management with temporary organizations that you build and dismantle, and keep the funding. You can keep the funding in the same portfolio, but keep the methods separate and understand that there's a purpose. One, as you were saying, Rosario, because these mixed hybrids where you've got project managers working in release trains and what you were describing, Danielle, is a real headache. But it's taken also me a lot of time to work that conclusion, because project management organizations, I think, and they will work in an organization, but an agile part of that organization needs to do its own thing as part of the line and not as a matrix organization. And that's where I think a lot of us make mistakes sometimes in trying to fix or fit a circle into a square. Some of my reflection and listening to your presentation as well today, I think, for me also highlighted those challenges.
Well, thank you for sharing this insight, Helene. Any comments from Daniel about this? In my mind, we would like to improve the communication, right? Foster the communication between these two organizations. So the Agile delivery organization and the management organization, project management organization. And it seems to me that Helene is suggesting that it's a dead end. Any comments on that from Daniel?
I believe that my point of view and what I've learned from that experience, that was a bit traumatic in the beginning, I have to say, is that what was needed in that organization, and we started implementing it later on, but it's always too late, was a clear knowledge on where the other side came from, so to say. Because if I am a project manager and I have expectations, it's not that I have those expectations because I'm a mean person. I have those expectations because I've been asked to run a project according to in a certain way. And at the same time, the product owners, the scrum masters, they're running their job because there are expectations on them. And if the two parts in the communication, they don't know why somebody's asking for something or why somebody is wanting a certain thing, then it becomes a very difficult communication, I have to say.
Indeed.
As I mentioned, I'm not an expert in SAFe, but I had to learn a number of things in order to understand why is this happening. Because I have a good heart, so I was not thinking that this was happening because people are bad. I would think that this was happening because people are trying to do their job, and maybe the two kind of job don't go together. So it was important to understand where each other came from. That's my take.
Did you find any resistance in meetings? So, like, my personal, I don't know, methodology is if I see 3 or more emails, or if you're using Slack or that type of communication tool, and there's just comment after comment after comment, my natural instinct is to actually, okay, let's talk this through and have a discussion so we are aligned and we're all on the same page. But I have noticed in the various organizations that I've worked in, particularly within software, that there is a reluctance, particularly amongst the developer community, to meetings. And there's a plethora of literature on why they feel that way. So I mean, for me, that's always a bit of a barrier, because that it hampers the communication, right? It's actually taking people longer and longer to type things through than if we just had a discussion. So I was wondering if you encountered that kind of resistance and how you resolved that.
Well, actually, I fully agree that to me also the best way to solve a problem is to put the persons in one place and have them talk to each other, because sometimes it's not even a problem of communication, it's a problem that they don't talk at all. And when they start talking, they realize, aha, but that was not that complicated. But I mean, there is a resistance to have too many meetings. There is already the feeling that there are so many meetings, both in the project and for the development and so on and so forth. But but eventually, I mean, the solution was to get people to talk to each other. And to me, it doesn't matter if it's a formal meeting or if you just meet in the corridor and say what's happening and so on. But I fully agree that that is the solution.
Yeah. So how do you manage that resistance?
Well, simply
just push through it.
We started in the beginning to bring up this stuff at the project meeting, because as I mentioned, there were representatives from the organizations as sub-project managers in each project. So they were bound to come to project meetings. Then we started having, I remember we had some more informal project meeting where we brought up this sort of stuff. But those disappeared after a while, because they realized that if they needed to talk to each other, they need to have a cold meeting. That's what basically set up the communication. But of course, it was a matter of forcing people to come to the meeting to start with. And then they started talking to each other without needing to call a meeting in a meeting room.
Okay, and this is going to be a relatively short talk from my end, yes? And for those of you who haven't been with us in the past meetups, my name is Sarah Linter, and I am a management consultant in my profit time, and a volunteer with Agile Gothenburg, and project managers without borders in my non-profit time. And today I'm gonna try to find those sweet spots, yes, between traditional and agile approaches to management together with you. I will be covering two areas. I will be discussing two areas. They are risk management and motivating teams, okay? And equally to Daniel, I'm not really saying that something is right or wrong. What I'm trying to do is that I'm trying to share my observations with you and my humble view as well. And I will be soliciting your views on the matters, on the subjects that I will be presenting, okay? So let's start with the first subject then, risk management. And here in this part, let me pull the laser pen. Here in this part, my message is mainly to the Agile practitioners community, okay? So risk management in Scrum then. Scrum, as you know, it tries to be non-prescriptive, okay? So in the Scrum guide, you really don't have a specific risk management approach. However, you read in the Scrum guide that sprints limit the risk to 1 calendar month of cost. You read as well that specific tactics for using the Scrum framework vary, and they are described elsewhere. So you don't have a risk management approach in the Scrum guide. With that said, Agile practitioners out there may argue and say that, well, risk management is implicit in the sprint planning, that teams during the sprint planning, they can estimate not only the size of each product backlog item, they can also estimate the technical risk. My experience tells me that this is seldom the case. It does not happen during the sprint plan. Teams typically estimate the size of user stories and they don't touch on the risk whatsoever, Okay, so that's what we have when it comes to risk management in Scrum. Great, and then we have the big player on the scene, right? We have the Scaled Agile Framework, SAFe. And in SAFe, I would say that risk management is more prescriptive, okay? In SAFe, they use that room, it's called room matrix for managing risks. So in SAFe, all risks are painted black, okay? They are seen as negative events, all right? And they are categorized as either resolved, owned, or accepted, or mitigated. And from here comes the abbreviation room. Sorry. Let's look closer at these categories in the next slide. So owned, that's basically the risk owner. You're trying to identify the risk owner when you fill in this field in the matrix, basically. Accepted and mitigated, these are two risk responses, okay? Resolved, that's an outcome of implementing a risk response by its owner, all right? That's basically how you read this matrix, how you read the room matrix. That being said, it's important to highlight that not all risks are black, okay? So scientific definition of a risk is an uncertain event. That's it. We don't say whether it's positive or negative. It's just an uncertain event. It might be black, negative. It might be white as well. It might be positive. So some risks are white. Some risks are actually positive. Sorry again. And in that case, you should see them as opportunities. That's number one, okay? And we don't have that in SAFe. All risks are negative. All risks are black. In addition to that, there is plenty of risk responses out there in addition to accepted and mitigated. So you have avoid, you may wish to avoid a risk. You may wish to exploit it if it's an opportunity, or even enhance it if it's an opportunity. Other viable risk responses are also transfer and share. So you have avoid, exploit, enhance, transfer, and share. All these are risk responses that you may wish to actually apply as you manage your risks in your projects or in your deliveries. I personally, my humble view, I personally find the blend, there's some kind of blend between risk ownership and responses in the room matrix. If you go back here to the previous slide, you see we are blending here between risk ownership, all right, and this is the risk responses. We're blending it between risk ownership and risk responses, and I personally find this blend to be confusing. I personally prefer to treat them as separate activity, as separate entities, all right, with separate resources allocated for them. What else I can share with you? I can share with you that the fact that money is usually set aside to respond to risks, okay? And this is called the risk budget. So the organization will set money to the side in order to deal with the risk, with the uncertain event should it occur, all right? You therefore need a number. It's not enough to room the risk and tell me that it's R or O or A or M. You really need to give me a number because there is money put aside here. You need to try to be accurate, all right? And in order to obtain that number, you need to work with the risk probability, risk impact, and monetary values and what have you, okay? In order to get that number and be more accurate about the risk budget that you gonna put to the side. Okay, great. So in summary then, risk management in Scrum and risk management in SAFe. Risk management in Scrum is non-prescriptive. It's not in the guide. Some teams might be doing, some Scrum teams might be doing risk management out there, but I speculate that most of them are not doing it, okay? Risk management in SAFe is more perspective, it's a step in the, I would say, in the right direction, but there is plenty of space for improvement to take risk management in SAFe to the next level, all right? And with that said, I would like to come to the sweet spot. And this is my humble proposal to Agile practitioners out there. So risk management is the bread and butter of project management and PMOs. We all agree to that. They work with risk management on a daily basis. So my humble proposal would be to complement Agile, try to complement your agile approach to managing deliveries and risk management by, all right, you can either talk to your PMO. If you work in an organization of a significant size, you most probably have a PMO in place, all right? So talk to your PMO. Your PMO, they have their tools, they have their techniques that they use to identify and assess risks, all right? So talk to them and try to reuse the knowledge base that they already have when it comes to risk management. That's number one, all right? Number two, evidence-based education. We really need more evidence-based education that is grounded in science, education that is endorsed by the wider community of practitioners. Here I'm talking really about education in project management and risk management. I would like to suggest that any agile practitioner out there would really benefit from a course in Prince2, which is the British best practice to project and risk management. You would really benefit from it. It will help you to improve your approach to risk management in your delivery. That's number one. And number two, it would help you as well to find out about that common terminology and common language that you can use in order to interact with your project management team and with your PMO in the right way, right? Without escalation and without yelling at one another and without trying to eliminate one another or what have you, okay? So this is the sweet spot when it comes to risk management. And the message here is, as I said, for agile practitioners, okay? So this closes the first subject that I wanted to discuss with you, and the next subject would be motivating teams. Okay, here I would like to find out about the sweet spot between traditional and agile approaches. Two motivating teams. Okay, and my message here in this part of my short talk is to project managers. Okay, if you have a question and you don't want to forget about it, please type it in the chat. I will take care of it by the end of my presentation. All right, so motivating teams between traditional and agile. Let's first try to understand what is motivating teams. What is that? Motivating teams is really providing them with a reason to act. If you provide teams with a reason to act, then you would say that you have motivated them. Generally speaking, teams are motivated by working independently. If you give them the space to work independently and innovate, and if you also give them the opportunity to participate in the decision-making in the organization. So transfer decision to people who have the information. Don't keep the decision-making process just at your desk only because you're senior in the organization. So that's how teams are motivated, generally speaking. And when motivating teams, we really prefer coaching to management, all right? Coaching is a very viable approach to motivate teams and unlock their potentials, right? Whereas management, it's less likely that it's going to work for you. So now that we understand what motivating teams is, we can move on and share this case study with you then, all right? This is a recent case study from Rework by Google. And Rework is really the Google's people operations team, right? They are the Google's human resources, if you like. And what they are trying to do is that they are trying to redesign work to make people happier, healthier, and more productive as well. Okay? And they have done this study for a 2 years period. They wanted to answer this question down here. So what set motivated and successful teams apart at Google? All right. Why some teams are motivated more than others at Google? And the findings are in the picture here to the right-hand side. So these are the factors that they discovered would contribute to motivating teams. So number one is psychological safety. Teams are more motivated when they feel safe to take risks and experiment and fail and what have you. Number two, dependability. All right, teams are motivated if they feel that they can depend on one another. Structure and clarity, they are motivated if they are clear about their job, their plans and goals and such. They are motivated if they can connect a meaning to the work that they are doing on a daily basis, and also if they feel they are creating impact, okay, within their organization and also towards the host society. Great. So this is something exciting, I would say, to share with you. It's a recent case study from Google. So now we better understand together how to motivate teams. Yes? Good. Now it's time to move on and tell you about motivating teams then in the PMBOK, in the American Standard to Project Management. So the American Standard to Project Management is summarized in the project management body of knowledge, abbreviated as PMBOK. All right, and here in the picture to the right-hand side, this is the cover of the 5th edition of the PMBOK. And in the PMBOK 5th edition, you have a knowledge area which Daniel thankfully touched on earlier in this meetup. It's called Project Human Resources Management. Then everyone in the community lamented that, well, I'm not a human resource, I am a human being, okay? And subsequently, in response to this outcry from the community, what the PMI did, what the Project Management Institute did, is that they dropped the human, okay? They dropped the human from the title of the knowledge area. There you have the book 6th edition, and it reads Project Resources Management instead of Project Human Resources Management. That's a suite that might seem like an improvement, a good improvement at start, but however, unfortunately, everything else remains the same. So the title has changed. We are treating humans as humans rather than headcounts or resources, but everything else remains the same. In particular, in this knowledge area, in the project resources management, let's call it now, you have this process. It's called developing, all right? And you as a project manager, the outputs that you get from executing this process, you get some kind of assessments, okay? So team performance assessments. How many user stories each team member has closed over the past few sprints or what have you, or over the course of working with this work package, let's say. And these assessments, as a project manager, these team performance assessments, you will use them as an input to another process. It's called manage teams. It's called the manage team process. And the manage team process, as it stands and as it's defined in the guide, it's defined like this. You track team members. That's what you do, basically, in the manage team process. You just track team members. You're not performing as well, I want you to ramp up. And you're not performing as well, I want you to ramp up, and so on. That's the sole purpose of the managed team process. And evidently, this has nothing to do whatsoever, not by any distance. This has nothing to do whatsoever with motivating teams, okay? So there you have it. That's how motivating teams is at the moment in the PMBOK 6th edition, right? Cool. What else I can share with you from the PMBOK 5th and 6th editions? I can share with you about coaching, right? So in the PMBOK 5th edition, I'm taking you back in time now. In the PMBOK 5th edition, right, coaching is listed as a skill of the project manager. So it's an interpersonal skill of the project manager. It's a skill. It's up to the project manager to work on this skill, improve it, all right, or not. It's completely up to the project manager. It is not a responsibility. It's not your responsibility as a project manager managing a project and all aspects with that project to actually do coaching. It's not a responsibility. It's a skill. It's up to you to work on it or not. Okay, what else? Coaching in the PMBOK 5th edition is described in 2 paragraphs. only 2 paragraphs. And anyone who has done any kind of coaching and who's with us today can agree with me that coaching is a very difficult profession. You will need way more than 2 paragraphs, way more than a book actually to master coaching, right? It's a group effort. If you want to master coaching, you need to engage in a group effort, and you need to practice, all right? Humble yourself and practice. In the PIM book, 5th edition, it's described in 2 paragraphs. Great. Now you may speculate and say, well, the situation is better in the PIM book 6th edition. No, that's not the case. In the PIM book 6th edition, coaching was dropped completely. Coaching is no longer seen as a skill that a project manager can improve. It's not there at all. Okay. With that covered, I would say that's everything I wanted to tell you about the American PMI standard to project management. And now I can move on across the Atlantic, and let's check on the British best practice then. So the British best practice to project management, it's summed in Prince 2, and here you have British guide, so managing successful projects with Prince 2. My view about it is that it's slightly better. I would say motivating team is treated with more attention in the British best practice when compared to the American guide. So in Prince 2, motivating teams is a project manager responsibility. So you, as a project manager, has the responsibility, all right, to motivate. Stay with me on this one. To motivate everyone involved in the project. It's not just the team, everyone. So the team, the project management board, the executives, the business management, everyone that is involved in the project. Your job and your responsibility is to motivate them, all right, and unlock their potential. So it's slightly better. What else can I add? In Prince 2, you have this sweet individual. They call him the team manager. All right. And I speculate that this team manager can actually serve as the thinking partner or the coach of the team. And he may take on team motivation and coaching responsibilities, especially that the project manager, most project managers are typically swamped by time and also don't have, the project budget that is allocated to that. So to sum up, I would say that it's treated with more care. Team motivation is treated with more care in the British best practice to project management. However, this is not in the guide. This is my speculation. Okay? So the team manager in the guide, his role is to just work on the work package. Okay, but I am speculating that the presence of this individual, the team manager, next to the project manager, will open the opportunity, will enable something to be done about team motivation. That's my own speculation. And if I were to manage a project, all right, whatever project, regardless of the domain, I would like to have this guy. All right, I'll be paying attention to the plans and keeping track of those plans. And I would like to, rest assured that there is someone who is looking after the team psychology and the team emotion and such, who would be the team manager. Good. Enough of the British best practice then. And now what I can do is that I can wrap up. I can sum up to you how motivating teams looks like in project management guides, the American then, and also the British. So little to no attention is paid to interpreting the emotional set of a team in these guides, okay? Little to no acknowledgement of the value of coaching in motivation. It's not there. Coaching is just not there. Not in the American and not in the British guys. And subsequently, what is the outcome of that? What are we seeing in the community? What we see in the community is that project managers who are educated by the guides, the American or the British, and who follow the guides to the letter, all right, they underestimate really, and subsequently, when you underestimate, you will underdevelop, okay? When you underestimate, you will underdevelop. It's a natural consequence. When you underestimate a subject of science, you will underdevelop your skills in that subject. There is no other way around it. They underestimate and subsequently underdevelop the skills that are required to motivate teams and unlock their potential. Nice. So that's the summary, how team motivation looks like in project management, guys. And with that said, I can proceed and try to highlight this sweet spot. Okay. This is my humble view again. This is the sweet spot in my humble view. Don't do as in the guide. Don't do as in the guide. All right. This is a message to project managers. Don't do as in the guide. And remember that coaching is not agile. In the past few years, agile and coaching has been very tightly connected to one another. That whenever you mention coaching, people say, well, that's agile coaching. That's an agile coach. No, coaching is not agile. Coaching is an independent profession, and it has existed way before the Agile Manifesto was signed and appeared to the surface. Okay, it's an independent profession. And what I would suggest is that you, as a project manager, implement your project management approach to motivating teams by check with coaches in your organization. You've got to have coaches in your organizations, be it agile coaches or human resources coaches or what have you. Consult with coaches in your organization. I mean, good coaches are really sweet individuals. They are very approachable and they have, those positive vibes, and they ask some infinite number of questions. You may have observed that, because that's what coaching is about. You just keep asking infinite number of questions in order to better understand the situation. But they're really sweet, very approachable, positive vibes kind of people, and they are usually, good coaches are usually equipped with a large set of tools, that you as a project manager can utilize in order to better understand the emotional set in your team and try to discover why are they frustrated or motivated at any point in time during the project lifecycle. Okay, that's number one. Number two, evidence-based education. Again, evidence-based education is important. We would like more evidence-based education that is grounded in science, that is endorsed by the wider community. And this is a message to project managers to involve in education related to coaching. And my preference here, my personal preference here, would be some kind of education that is accredited by a reputed professional organization. And since we are talking about coaching, that would be the ICF, so the International Coaching Federation. Educational program from the ICF, it's not a book that you read and you sit to an exam. That will not make you a coach. You're not getting there. Educational programs, when it comes to coaching, those that are accredited and approved by the ICF, they take longer period of time. All right, so you take part in some kind of coaching circle, all right, they call it, and it lasts in between 3 up to 6 months, all right, where you get the chance to interact with your peer coaches, and you get the chance as well to try out all the coaching techniques that are there. Cool. So this is the sweet spot. So okay, so let me recap. So what I have tried to do is that I have tried to highlight then sweet spots, meeting points, all right, meeting points in between traditional and agile approaches to managing deliveries and motivating teams. I have discussed the area of risk management, and I have discussed as well with you the area of motivating teams. And with that said, I would like to thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. We really appreciate that you take the time to be present with us today. And I would like to transfer it to you now if you have any questions or any thoughts that you would like to share with us and with the audience, rest of the audience. Okay. I've got to do like this. And I can, complete silence.
No, it was great. It was great. Thank you. I've always felt that the very formalized project management roles and responsibilities can be very rigid. And when they're rigid, it makes it really hard to work with new methods like Agile, because they can lack compromise. So thank you for pointing that out.
You're welcome. I would. It would be great if you can take this further, and you and the rest of the audience take it further and try to find out about other sweet spots in different areas, other than risk management and team motivation. I think Mustafa raised his hand. Please, Mustafa, go ahead.
Yes, hello. Thank you very much for spotting very important points. And I think this reminded me, in this current situation where we are living and working from home most of the time in the, pandemic phase of this time, 2020. And everybody has realized how important the human life is, again, maybe more than ever, I don't know. But simply what you showed us on the screen is reminded me so much things and so much experience I had with my project managers in the past. I mean, simply I would like to say this: a project is made by humans. And the outcome of the project is a product, which is for humans also.
Yeah, indeed.
And the center is actually human, must be human, not the task, not the project itself. So when a project manager starts to hire some people, some resources, let's say, at the beginning they simply ask, okay, we are looking for a team player where can work under very stressful circumstances, and they can manage stress, they can do whatever we ask and so on. It's like they are asking this motivated people only at the beginning of the hiring process. So they ask you to be very, very motivated when they hire you. Of course, when you try to get a job, get a task, or start to work in a project, you say that, okay, I am very well motivated, I can work like hours and hours without any stress. Even there is a stress, I can manage that stress, no problem at all. So you want to get the job. So when you get the job, that simple question asked to you at the very beginning is like, stays there, and rest of the project, no one cares about your motivation at all. I mean, please correct me if anyone, felt the opposite, but I felt that, they asked me to be motivated all the time, and they asked me to keep my motivation up all the time. And this is not possible. I mean, this is something I think most of the project managers as well as managers forget. I mean, what you are hiring or what you are resourcing to your project is not a robot. What you are hiring is a human being. And we have feelings and we have emotions, and then we have a motivation level to do our process. So as a project manager, as a project leader, I mean, your task is not only to finish the product as efficient as possible in a perfect budget and so on. I mean, the product you are working on, the product you are trying to produce is made by human you hired. So please, I mean, I manage some small sort of projects with small teams. I didn't manage big projects, but I totally, felt that sometimes when I was working back then in a project, my manager doesn't care about my motivation and doesn't help me about coaching, doesn't help me doesn't ask me anything about how it is going in life. How are you in personal life? Are you well? And we need more input from you. And to do that, what you need, and so on. So simply, I would like to remind project managers and project leaders that, motivation is really, really important for the efficiency of the team. So in order to get a good product and efficient and valuable product, you need to really be careful about your team's motivation. And if you cannot do this coaching, as you said, ask for help.
Exactly. Ask for help. Right. Thank you very much for sharing this useful remarks with us. And I would like to give it to Rosaria then. Rosaria raised her hand. Rosaria,
I'm
please.
here. I'm here. Yes.
Yes, please.
I think, first of all, thanks a lot, because I think it's an approach that is missing. Talking about the motivations of the team is missing a lot of the time when you talk about project management. I do have experience with two particular projects where motivation was there from the start to the end of the project, but in both there were two things happening. First of all, management served as a way to protect the team and avoid distractions and other tasks from the team. So management helped a lot from other stakeholders to, in a way, protect the work the team was doing and focusing on the objectives and the goals that were meant to reach. And the other one, I think that's the most important, is that all the team had some kind of intrinsic motivation towards finishing the project. Yeah. These both projects were in healthcare, in hospital, and they both were deeply involved in improving patients' life or improving patients' outcomes of their care. So a lot of the people that were involved in the project were nurses, were doctors, and they were really motivated to make a change with to their patients. So I think, but yeah, in both teams there were there was an intrinsic motivations to keep going on the project, indefinitely of the issues that were on hand. That obviously they were, because every project has its issues. But yeah, I just wanted to compliment with that. I think it may be difficult in certain projects to see past just a product or a piece of software that you need to deliver. But I guess intrinsic motivation is what makes the difference for both teams.
Thank you for sharing this with us, Rosaria. I'm glad to hear that there are actually projects that, in addition to paying attention to performance targets, they pay attention to team motivation as well. And now I would like to move it to Pablo. Pablo, you raised your hand. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Well, first of all, thanks for the seminar. I really, really enjoyed it. And I was just thinking about all the things that, Mustafa and Rosario were mentioning. I'd like to pick on something that Rosario was mentioning, which is this intrinsic motivation. I think that it's more seen from the Agile teams, not so much from the PM or the project management teams. Let's say in the case of motivations, we could think about having an external motivation and then an internal one. And I think the one that is built more or deeper and deeply rooted as well is the internal motivation that the developers have in Agile teams. I think this could be, right, a great complement to the PM traditional roles that we have. Because since everything is just coming down from the managers to the team, whereas in the Agile way, I mean, everybody picks on their task and their stories, on their requirements and things, and they are working together as a system. I think that's a bit better way to move forward. So, well, thanks for that.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Pablo, for sharing this with us. I was actually looking for Adam. I thought Adam raised his hand while I was presenting, but I'm afraid he's no longer with us. I would like to borrow then Daniel.
Yes. Sorry,
So
I couldn't find the unmute button.
So the last part of this meetup is then the discussion in breakout rooms. Yes.
But it's 2 minutes to 7.
Yes,
So
I
probably.
have noticed that. So let's ask the participants. Would you like to have some 15 minutes to discuss the topics that we have raised during this meetup in breakout rooms?
I think it would be nice if everybody else has time. I think this is quite
I mean, I can stay. No problem. Daniel, if you need to leave, that would be fine.
Yeah, I unfortunately have another thing at 7. So.
Okay. All right. No worries. But, thank you very, very much for being with us today.
Yeah,
Daniel,
thank
and
you very
contribute.
much for the opportunity. And for all of you who listen, you will find my contacts in the material. So if you have any question that might pop up or any additional thought, I'm available for contact.
Right. Yep. So these are Daniel's contact, and that's his email, that's his phone number, and you can also find him on LinkedIn. Please keep in touch with him. Great.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.
Great. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. All right. So for the breakout rooms, I mean, you can further discuss the knowledge areas that Daniel covered, right? The challenges when it comes to these knowledge areas, you know them: integration, management, scope, time, cost, quality management, procurement, communication, risk, and stakeholders. You may otherwise further discuss the sweet spots that I have tried to highlight. Maybe you can improve these sweet spots, right? Maybe you can find out about a better sweet spot and the ones that I have found out about. And let's hear from you when you are back to the main session. So what I'm gonna do now, so it's open-ended discussion. Really, you choose the subject. We don't want to restrict you when it comes to that. You choose the subject. Something, please, relevant. Not about ice hockey. That's not okay. So let's get to the breakout rooms. Then I'm going to actually recreate. Okay, I think I can take. Yeah, I can take basically 2 rooms. Okay, have I recreated them now? No, I haven't. Let's see. Okay, 2. I have recreated now. For the options, for the time, I'm going to give you. Would 15 minutes be enough, or would you like 15 minutes is okay? All right, I'm gonna keep it at 15 minutes then. After 15 minutes, there will be a countdown of 60 seconds before you are returned back automatically to the main session. There you go. We have 2 breakout rooms done. Enjoy your conversation and please make the best out of it. Okay. All right, you're back. Welcome back, everyone. The number has shrunk significantly. I mean, you know, people have their workday behind them and they would like to, you know, have some time for themselves for the evening. But the stage is yours. What would you like to share with us? What takeaways have you highlighted in your group discussion?
Well,
I can say something. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were just kind of debating that, and we felt that the time was not enough, and we wanted to continue the discussion. But we said that probably using a hybrid approach would be better as long as the clear goals and expectations are communicated. That's why we felt that the communications area was the main barrier and blockage, okay, that the teams had when integrating one mindset into another. So there was a great question that somebody has made, and it's like, how do we know when one phase, okay, using waterfall at the beginning finishes, and then when the agile framework starts, and then I think that's a key issue.
And here
maybe
yes?
if I may, maybe I didn't answer. I have Christina here.
Yes.
I have an answer. It's really very visible in our methodology that we have, where start and stop could be possible. So that was an addition to that.
Okay, thank you, Christina. Thank you, Pablo.
Christina, the question was like, do you have like KPI, like the key performance indicator? Say, hey, now we are based on a word. How did you define that limit?
Okay. Was that for me or?
Yes, it's the same question. How do you define like this is the end of this PMO, and then we start the
okay.
agile?
You mean how? But it's supported still. We still apply stage gates, as I said, and that is for, I would say, entering into implementation mode, and then we exit where we have a closure, formal closure. That is very opposite to Agile, because Agile states that you should stop starting and stop ending things, but it's a hybrid model. So that is the reason. And of course, requirements on financial control, outcome, and so on.
Did you compare it with the previous one you were using and see you have an advantage, right, with this new model?
We haven't done this such a long time, so we haven't yet compared. But that is, of course, something we really need to do in the future.
Hey, Christina, I have a question for you.
Yes.
You just said that you are following Agile and doing daily stand-up in PMO. So
Yes.
what is preventing you to follow the Agile methodology in the projects?
How should I put it? I think it's a big company with a lot of old software. I'm in IT, and we have this set up, with business and IT project managers, and so we have a lot of people, a lot of dependencies. Everyone in IT would recognize that you always have a technical inheritance and debt that you need to manage. So, but it's sort of growing in different places in the organization. So it's more like it's popping up here and popping up there, and people go and look. Aha, you work like that. So it is sort of. It's more like it's spreading like a little virus, if I may say so.
Okay, actually, I also have worked with both methodology. So, and I find that the quality and the deliverables are better at the Agile approach. So that's why I asked the question. And I still have been working with within a project that still we follow the hybrid model, that the customer is not following the Agile. He is not involved in our daily stand-ups or any other question and answer of the team, even though we are following some good parts of Agile. But I must say we are not following Agile perfectly. So that's why I asked the question, that I wanted to know more experience on that part. So thank you for your answer.
But I completely agree on that, because for sure, one thing, and this goes back to communication, if you will be successful working this way, people need to participate in stand-ups. They need to be there 99% of the time, or 95 at least. You cannot come and go being in one meeting, because it becomes a behavior, culture, and a way of communicating and creating respect for each other. We only have quarter of an hour, and we are 5 persons to go through our things. And we started off by using yellow stickies and a whiteboard. And I think it was 3 months ago, we transferred into Jira. And of course, that was sort of maybe a bit tricky in the beginning, but then now it's working perfectly fine. And we haven't had any a physical stand-up. I think that was back in February. So everything is digitalized in that sense, and also working really fine in the beginning. So, I would, everyone who wants to start small, of course. Make it simple. Start with the meetings. Just start with, but one important thing also, assign a Scrum Master that can develop and be the one that will focus on how we should apply the methodology and how to develop it. That is very helpful.
So, just one last thought, and that is like Agile does things really well in terms of development, right? So that you can iterate on the development. And the traditional method does the starting and the ending really well, right? So it makes sense to say how you start the project and how you end the project, go for the traditional way. And when you're actually doing the project or you're doing the development and testing, go for the Agile way. I found that actually works pretty well for me. And like today I'm at Mina and that's what we do, but I've worked at Thomson Reuters and that's what we did there too. You kind of just end, I think if you in a lot of ways end up there anyway. I think we ended up there at Thomson Reuters very organically, like it wasn't planned, it just worked out that way.
That's good, very good approach.
I have to run, but it was so nice to talk to everybody. I'm a recent immigrant to Sweden, so it was nice to meet everybody, and hope I see you at the next meeting. Thanks again. You can find me on LinkedIn if you're interested. So I'd love to continue conversations there too. Okay. Hey, Doa. Bye bye.
Hey, Doa.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
Yeah.
So now we are only 7.
Okay, do we have anything else that you would like to raise and discuss?
I have a one thing that I would like to thank you and Mustafa for putting a really good thing for the motivating team.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Pablo and all of the remaining participants. I am from Nepal.
Thank you, Jairaj, and we're happy to be in your company.
Yeah, thank you so much for this amazing session.
You're welcomed. Anything else you would like to share, or shall I go on and close the meetup?
Yes, sure.
Yeah. So
one
yes,
thing,
please.
I mean, will this be sent? I mean, as a link? Will we have access to material? What kind of material are you going to be distributing after the meeting?
Yeah. So usually after the meetup, within a week time or something, we send out the presentation and also the video recording. On this occasion, we will be sharing as well the poll results based on the request that we got from one of the participants. So yeah, it will be there.
Very much.
And this is a good opportunity for me to remind you that this is sponsored by a user group from the Scrum Alliance and also by a chapter from the Project Management Institute, which means that you will be eligible to get 2 Scrum educational units and also 2 professional development units.
Sounds good.
Yes.
Thank
All
you.
right. Yeah, with that said, allow me to thank you very, very much for joining me today. And I wish you a nice evening. And I look forward to seeing you on the next occasion.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.